The following broadcast fulfills our obligation to provide educational and informational programming. Come back next week for more of the usual nonsense. Battle of the Network shows. Join Rick Brooks and Mike Kogel as they explore the TV of the 70s and 80s through hand-picked episodes of their favorite and not-so-favorite series.
Welcome to Battle of the Network shows. I'm Mike.
And I'm Rick. Hello, everyone.
And today we're going to be providing you with some education, some information, some moral guidance in the form of public service announcements.
Yes, public service announcements.
And this is an idea that you've had for, I think, since we started the podcast.
Oh, yeah, this has been one of my dream episodes, so if it doesn't work, you can blame me, everybody. But yeah, I was always fascinated by public service announcements, even back to my youth. There's something about them, and I think a lot of the ones that resonated with me had some kind of emotional impact on me, and maybe with you as well. But yeah, I've always really enjoyed PSAs, and in fact, I have a little PSA story I can share from a previous professional life.
Please.
Yes, well, I worked for a government and education access station, so not a public access station, mind you, but government and education access. So we were funded by local government bodies, like town commissions, town councils, and school systems, things like that. So programming had to be sponsored by one of those organizations. It wasn't just anybody could go in and put something on. And what I was doing for a while, I was doing like traffic, which was taking programs that we would shoot, sometimes live, and then we would transfer them to a different tape in order to fit our time clock. Because we had an automated system that would have the programs run on the different tape decks, we would have to have them time out at a certain thing. So if it was like, 48 minutes and 32 seconds of programming, I'd put in enough PSAs and maybe credits and things like that and manipulate the tape to get it to run to transition to the next program, maybe like 59 minutes and 52 seconds or something like that. So I would put on like station identifications, and we had a boss that had a great voice. You're watching CNET, your award-winning government and education access channel, and we'd have maybe some promos for upcoming things and little info and vignettes. But one thing I loved to put on more than anything else was the public service announcement. And we had a whole bunch of 3/4-inch tapes. Who knows how old they were. And I loved adding those to the program. So I just got a big kick out of them. Like, one I used a lot was the crash test dummies. You could learn a lot from a dummy. We had a lot of those. And another one of my favorites had Seymour Smoke. He was an anthropomorphic smoke detector voiced by Gilbert Gottfried. And the campaign was called Be Cool About Fire Safety. So it had a cool jingle. It was like, be cool about fire safety. And Gilbert Gottfried would come on and he'd say, in his voice, which is, for me, inimitable, so I'm not going to imitate it, but like, I have another cool rule about fire safety, and he'd be, the smoke detector would be squinting as he says it and everything, and it'd have some little tip or whatever. And I love those, and I'm not 100% sure I remember this correctly, but I think at one point I got a couple hints, you're running those Be Cool About Fire Safety ones a little too much. But they were great PSAs. So those ones maybe didn't have as much the emotional resonance, although the crash test dummies ones are, I think, still pretty impactful, no pun intended, today. But some of the ones that we've chosen to talk about on this episode, those ones had more like a real deep emotional meaning. For me, it was more like the emotional impact, and I don't know about whether they changed my behavior, but I still remember a lot of them.
Yeah, I know we're going to get into some of the ones I chose that didn't change my behavior at all. And I would, even watching them now, I'm like, I don't know if I would do that.
Right.
The fire safety ones. I'm totally going to walk through smoke and not crawl.
Yeah.
No. So some of the food ones, I think, didn't quite take. Or I got the wrong message, maybe. But, they were a huge part of TV growing up. I mean, even in prime time, right?
Yeah.
Like, some of them, like the ones I remember from prime time mostly are the Crying Indian and Woodsy Owl and Smokey the Bear.
Yeah, and some ones that were geared more towards a general audience. But yeah, I think maybe not necessarily as much during actual prime time, but I think in that like early evening hour, especially like when you and I would be watching like reruns on local stations, I think a lot of those would be filled with PSAs. And as time has gone on, you see less and less of that. I think now on maybe online sources and streaming, you kind of see some PSAs, but a lot of times it was just to fill up time. A lot of times it was to actually generally perform some kind of public good. But it seems like at a certain point, and maybe it was just me getting older, but these kind of fell by the wayside a little bit, and we started to see more like infomercials and things like that, and that was what you saw more than PSAs. It was like the time was too valuable to waste, quote unquote, with something like this, with free advertising for something. It was more like, okay, let's put a station ID or something in there.
Yeah, like now I mean, you do. I don't know. I don't watch enough commercial television to maybe notice, but like streaming, sometimes you see like a lot of vaping is stupid PSAs. I feel like those are the ones I've seen.
Yeah, the anti-smoking and anti-vaping,
which is good, but it's like, okay, I'm not gonna. One, I'm not a teenager, but two, I'm not gonna vape anyway. So get on with it. I'm trying to watch a goofy video, but
Right. Yeah,
there's something. And then the other times, it seems like when there's like a hurricane or something, some sort of disaster, and like the presidents get together and do a PSA about some sort of disaster relief or donating blood or something like that.
yeah. I think the ad council is still one of the biggest forces for public service announcements in general, and I still see a lot of their work around. I think it's interesting that I don't think either one of us selected any ad council things.
I don't think so.
Like the "This Is Your Brain on Drugs," I think that was ad council. The smoking is yeah. The anti-smoking is. There's been a lot of money going into that over the years, and those are still around. But yeah, I don't see as much of it anymore. But like you said, yeah, I don't watch a lot of commercial television either. And when I'm watching like a short video, it's a lot more of an annoyance. Or if you're watching something on streaming, which is supposed to be like us taking control of our watching, it's a little bit more of an annoyance than when I was 10 and I just had the TV on. There weren't a lot of options, and you're seeing something show up in a 30-minute show.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, okay, you just roll with it. Or if it's at the end of a cartoon and it's embedded in the cartoon or integrated into it, like G.I. Joe, then it's like, oh, this is the best part of the show.
Right. He-Man's telling me how to live my life.
Yes.
I was happy to see in one of I chose at least a mailing address in Pueblo, Colorado.
Oh, yes. I'm glad you mentioned Pueblo, Colorado. That mythical area.
Yes. What is in Pueblo, Colorado? Why is that the place? And mostly I remember it being like the consumer, like some sort of consumer handbook or something.
Yeah. They had like a consumer information catalog, and apparently they processed, tons of requests for that. And I just remember seeing that town mentioned in so many commercials as a kid, Pueblo, Colorado. And I don't know about you, I did a little research into Pueblo, Colorado, and I'm not going to say anything else about Pueblo, Colorado. I'll let the listeners do their own research, but I didn't see a lot of good things about Pueblo, Colorado, unfortunately.
Here's how I imagine it.
Okay.
I think because it's Colorado, and for some reason I'm not imagining a Pueblo-style building, but more like a log, like a Western frontier town.
Ooh, yeah.
Maybe because I think one of those ads had like a Western frontier thing.
Mm-hmm.
That might be what I'm. But anyway, just like the Pony Express coming in. And,
ooh, right.
With your little request for a little catalog, and then they're printing it up on their daguerreotype or something. A guy with a little visor and a vest, and he's got ink all over his hands, and he prints it up and sends it to you, and you find out that you shouldn't buy hardware from that one guy down the street. You should buy it from Bullock and Star. Or be careful if you go in the gem saloon. Something could happen.
I like it. Yes, you have a idyllic yet vaguely dangerous view of Pueblo, Colorado. I think it suggests a lot of adventure to me.
Yeah.
And I like that. I sometimes would like to go out there and see like that consumer information center if it's still around. Is it like a tourist spot? Can you go in there and get a tour of any of this? I don't know. I wonder if they must take it really seriously out there too.
I wonder if they had a tip line too. Like if you experienced a bad business.
Yeah.
Like the Better Business Bureau, but you called them. And next time you update that catalog.
Yeah. Get on it.
Plus, I think that didn't make sense to me as a kid because my idea of a catalog was only like in a retail sense.
Right,
Like I thought
something you
that's
would
what that word meant. I
buy
didn't.
something from.
Yes, and you perused, but not that it's a log of information,
Yeah.
a record.
Yes. Right, which I guess was the traditional term for catalog
Right. Yeah.
before it became like a overrun by retail interests, like
Yes.
so many other things in our world.
Except for PSAs.
Yes, PSAs are still there, and yeah, good for Pueblo for whatever role it played in all this.
Now, do the PSAs? They must be part of fulfilling like the FCC obligation too, right?
I think it used to be as part of like a license for running a station, you had to do some kind of thing, and you would actually have to log that. I think in radio too, you would have to record those, and because they could check your books, and you'd have some kind of program log, and you would say like, hey, we played this X number of times. I don't know if that's still the case. I wouldn't be surprised if that's been long dropped.
Right.
But they've shrunken the time for programs now to like 22 minutes, a half hour, or 21 minutes. They could put in a little bit of time for some good public service announcements, but
You'd think so.
they probably wouldn't be the same. I don't think they'd be as good as the ones we watched. And speaking of things not being good, can we both agree that whatever you got from Pueblo, which I never did get one of those catalogs, to get information on a business or some kind of product, much better to write to Pueblo, Colorado, wait 3 to 4 weeks for that catalog to come back to you, than go online and look at a Yelp or TripAdvisor or something like that review.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just something majestic about that process of waiting for it. I think that automatically makes it better.
Right. And that it's not, it's a codified piece of information. It's not 5 reviews for something, 3 of them rave reviews, and one of them a review of someone raving about how terrible something is.
Right.
And like, well, how can it be both? It's either the best shopping bag ever, or the bottom always falls out.
Right.
There's no in between. I feel like that consumer guide would be much clearer.
I sure hope so. You know what? I should
It
find
might
one
just
of these.
right, because you should, yeah.
I want to get one of these. Like now that I think about it,
Because it
Maybe my
might just
next
be
quest.
like advice on how to be a good consumer.
Yeah, that could be too. Because otherwise there could be like a conflict of interest. But I would hate to think that there was like a 60 minutes expose or something on like people lobbying the Consumer Information Center like catalog writers by taking them out to like fancy steak dinners somewhere in Colorado and like luring them and wooing them to put favorable information there. I don't think that happened. I think regardless of what I may have read about Pueblo, Colorado, which may or may not be true, I have no doubts about the integrity of the consumer information catalogs that they issued from that fine town.
And yet I would actually want to see that expose just to see like Mike Wallace standing at the desk of the Consumer Information Center.
Yeah, do you think he would like get in the spirit of it and have like a vest and like a cowboy hat for that, or would he just go in his suit, and just be totally out of place?
I don't think he would go full, but he might go like suit with a bolo tie.
Yeah, make some kind of concession to being in Pueblo.
If he did, the other option is him, a shot of him licking an envelope and sticking it in the mailbox, waiting, and then a few weeks later in a different outfit, opening up the package, and
Yes.
when we finally received.
Yes, I love it. Well, okay, now I've got a new goal in life to get one of these old information.
Maybe
catalogs.
it just says like it's like 4 pages and it's buy more stuff.
Well, I could very well be. But I think the ones we've chosen are a little bit more higher-minded than that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we didn't. I'm kind of looking over our list, and I think we have a pretty good mix.
I think so.
Like Saturday morning ones and ones that we might have seen all throughout the day, and celebrities, not celebrities. How are we going to go about this, Mike? What do you think?
Maybe an alternating,
Okay, that sounds good. Like you and I each.
like we have groups of them.
Okay,
So.
right. We each selected a handful of ones that were interesting to us for some reason. We're going to put them in playlists. The good thing about public service announcements is they're not going to get pulled down for copyright violations. So this should be one of the easiest playlists I've ever assembled.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about something getting yanked. So
Yeah. Well, I'll start.
yeah, why don't you
That
start?
way you'll get the finale.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Okay.
So the first group I chose, which was a playlist of its own, and is the timeout for timer PSAs. I don't know. I guess they're PSAs. I mean, because they're not like ad council. I find they're a little bit grayer, but they aired on ABC and in between various cartoons for years, right?
Oh yeah, I think
Decades.
must have been like at least 10, 15 years, I would say.
Apparently, this character also appeared in a couple ABC like after school special type things, like in animated sequences.
Ooh.
which is interesting.
He was like a spokesman for the network,
Yeah,
kind of like Bob Hope for NBC.
right. Yeah,
Timer was like face of the company.
wasn't he in a balloon in that? And even watching these now, I don't get this. I don't pick up on the meaning of timer, but according to the internet sources that I read, he's supposed to symbolize time passing in your body and you getting hungry.
Is that so?
I just think he's a weird orange blob.
Yes, I lean more towards your interpretation.
Right. You know, he's even, other than the color, he's a little maybe similar to the Mucinex guy.
Oh wow, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, and, you know, at least one of his has nothing to do with eating. It's about brushing your teeth.
Right.
So I definitely remembered these in a sort of general way. I think the only one that stuck with me in a very specific way was the wagon wheels hunka.
Oh yeah,
Hankering for a hunk of cheese.
yeah.
And unfortunately, that's probably the only one where I really took the advice and was like, oh, cheese and crackers, that's a great snack.
Yeah.
A great healthy snack.
And didn't that had like a credit like at the end to some nutritionist, right?
I think they all do, yeah.
Okay, which is funny because like looking at it now, it's like, is that really something that?
Right.
I mean, well, there was a time though when we grew up, dairy was king.
Yeah.
And that was part of a good balanced diet.
Right. And a little bit of dairy is fine. A little bit of cheese is fine. And probably a couple crackers. And maybe that's all Timer is saying. Just get 2 crackers and a little bit of cheese. But, you know, you can't just eat 2 crackers. Or you're always like, well, I have some cheese left, but I'm out of crackers. So I'm going to have to get more crackers to finish the cheese or vice versa, you know.
Oh, that's a vicious.
I mean, the crackers, you could just put them back, but they're already on your plate.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, crackers, besides being carbs, usually have a lot of sodium. Cheese has a lot of that, so maybe not the best.
No, and he's talking about in the song. He's talking about a hunk of cheese. He's not saying like a slice of cheese or like a couple of cheese wedges.
Right.
You know, small, reasonable cheese wedges. He's saying a hunk of cheese.
Right. Yeah.
Which to me, like I'm thinking
It's
of
like
like a
real
big
cheese.
Longhorn Colby.
Yeah.
And like taking a big knife and like cutting it in half or something, and just like eating it out of your hand, maybe even.
Yeah.
Not even using crackers.
Right. And I mean, a kid shouldn't be wielding a knife.
No, not even a butter knife.
No. Especially now those deceptive cheese cutter things.
Yeah, they can do some damage.
Yeah. Plus, when we were growing up, frankly, most of the cheese in the refrigerator was probably in slice form and not cheese exactly. You know what I mean?
I kind of do, but I got to say, like in my household, we were like more of a chunk cheese family.
Oh, that's good.
Like because I didn't like Kraft slices, so
Good.
we generally stayed away from that, the more processed kind. So
A little healthy.
I'm not sure we were typical. I think it was
Yeah.
it was commonplace for many kids to have like a cheese drawer full of individually wrapped cheese slices, right?
Yeah. And if you had a block of cheese, it was for other things. For like
Like
tacos or something.
oh yeah, tacos. Or I thought you were
Macaroni
saying
and cheese.
non-dietary things like
But-
self-defense in case a
Yes.
burglar comes into the house.
Yeah.
Have a big block of cheese on
Right.
hand. Paperweight or
Yeah. That's another Timer thing, you know. About throwing cheese at people. That's where Kevin from Home Alone learned all his lessons
timer.
from Timer.
Rascally timer.
It's a deleted scene of him just what? Oil on steps. So some of these other ones, once I saw them again, they came back, especially the one where he's like inside the body and it's like a factory.
Yeah, that one I didn't remember as much, but yeah.
I just remember him like pulling levers and things. And then there's the first time I rewatched this one, there's one where he's talking about making a healthy snack of like vegetables to have by
Yep.
and for some reason he's like, get a bowl of ice cubes. I'm like, okay. Put in some raw cauliflower, and I actually was like,
Yeah.
And then the rest, it's like carrots and olives, and there was a vegetable that I liked.
Right.
Oh, celery with cheese.
Okay.
Of course.
Yeah. Cheese
Yeah.
again, yeah.
Oh, well, you got to put something on celery. Come on.
Yeah.
Even Timer knows that.
Right. That didn't look very appetizing, though.
No.
Like, starting with the ice was very, very weird. Like you said, it makes you look like it's going another direction. And then he starts throwing in, like, it's weird because if you, like, even now, like, every now and then, if you go to, like, a party or something or, like, a social gathering and somebody's got a veggie tray, like, I'll put a few veggies on my plate, maybe with a little something or other. But if it was in a bowl of ice and you just were, like, scooping vegetables out of it or something like that, I don't understand that.
Probably what you'd want to do is like put a bowl of cold water or ice under another bowl.
Yeah.
So you want to keep it cold,
Uh-huh.
but then he's saying refrigerator for half an hour, and then
Yeah.
and the kid's, well, while I'm waiting, can you make me a banana? And he turns him into a banana.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it seemed
It was weird. I guess if the point is to have the bowl sitting around all day while you're sitting in front of the TV all day,
yeah.
then you need to keep the vegetables cold or something. But yeah,
I
that didn't
guess.
work for me. But I remember watching that as a kid and feeling kind of ripped off by that. I don't think I ever tried to imitate that.
They also like putting juice in the ice trays with toothpicks to make popsicles. I mean,
Did you ever do that?
well, something like that. We actually had like some sort of Tupperware things designed for that were separate from the ice trays,
Right.
and I think we did it with like Kool-Aid or something. But I
almost-
think my mom was always in charge of it.
Yeah.
But at least that's an idea I can recognize. Like, oh yeah, and that works.
I'm almost positive that I tried that, but I didn't think the toothpick really was strong enough to support the. I don't remember
That
it
would be a
working very
problem.
well.
Yeah.
If I think if we tried it like once, and I lost interest in it. It looks kind of cool in the cartoon, but like it basically like an orange juice ice cube or something like that. It
Yeah.
just seemed like a little bit of work for not much reward.
A
little
little
bit too,
bit
little-
of work.
I'm sorry, a little bit too much
Too
work
much work.
for not enough reward.
Yeah, you're right about the toothpick. I bet 9 times out of 10 it just comes out when you. pull
Yeah,
it.
I question the structural integrity of that snack.
You need some other object.
Yeah, like you know what would
You
be
need to eat a box of popsicles
yeah.
and save the sticks.
Right. Or you know what else might work in there is like a pretzel stick or something like that.
Yeah.
Get a nice, solid pretzel rod and put an ice on there, or like even like I don't know, like maybe a cheese stick or something like that. Something a little bit sturdier.
Or you could just, use a spoon.
Yeah,
Like
maybe.
just eat the frozen orange juice
Yeah.
with a spoon. That would be good.
That's right. Yeah, well,
I think that's the more important part is the frozen,
okay, yeah.
healthy-ish juice of some kind. I mean, he just says juice, so like I said, we did it with Kool-Aid.
Mm-hmm. Not quite.
There's
as
some
healthy.
water in there, but
Yeah. And if it's tap water,
yeah.
it might not even be that healthy.
Yeah. And back then it certainly was tap water. And then there's one where he's saying, you need to eat breakfast, and if you don't have time for a regular breakfast, even leftovers are good. And that seems like a good message. Or even like a peanut butter sandwich,
Yeah.
which I wouldn't eat, but it doesn't have to be a breakfast food. As long as it's food, it's some food. You need your energy. You need some food.
I respect the messaging on that, but again, like if you're gonna make a peanut butter sandwich, you could just like get a bowl of cereal. It seems like just as easily.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, the overall message I respect. I mean, the importance of getting something.
Pizza,
Yeah,
fried chicken,
cold pizza. Yeah,
cold chicken, maybe a leftover piece of pie.
yeah. As long as it's in the refrigerator, it's fair
Yeah.
game.
That's right. Oh, there's one about, trying different foods. Don't knock it till you try it. Which his advice there is to have a smorgasbord and try a bunch of different things, and maybe you'll find you like them. I guess. I mean,
Interesting philosophy there.
yeah. Someone I think an adult would have to be in charge of that.
Yeah, and
Just a kid, like a bunch of kids, like doing a Little Rascals thing, and
right,
let's just pull all this food we don't like out of the fridge and see if we like it.
right, and throwing like an old boot in there or something. Or the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, and they got toast and popcorn. And how thrilled do you think the adults were at the idea of creating a smorgasbord of different new foods for the kids to try and having that be the dinner?
Not.
Yeah,
Unless, I mean, it could be a way to sneak in one of those things they like that they're like, well, maybe I don't have to cook as much liver and onions, but at least we get to have liver and onions.
Right.
Which we never get to have if we do a full meal, because then the kids aren't going to eat that.
right. Well, I can see that. I think part of it too is like at the time, we were kind of like growing into the era of the latchkey kids too. So a lot of times you would have parents working, you come home, maybe taking some shortcuts and just getting something that kids are going to eat. And really, as a parent myself, I can't judge too harshly on that, because you want to get something that's done, and you don't necessarily want to put a smorgasbord of food out there and take risks.
Yeah. I feel like that would be like a one-time fun thing.
Yeah. Or maybe on the weekend.
Like, hey,
After
we're
you-
going to do a smorgasbord. And
Yeah.
then you get to explain what that is. And
Yeah.
talk about Sweden and,
right.
just have a bunch of different stuff maybe a sneaky way also to, like if you have, I know you've experienced this where, one kid wants McDonald's
Yeah.
and one wants Chick-fil-A or whatever. It's a way to have everything.
Yeah. That's the real takeaway, is like that it's okay to make 2 trips
Yeah.
when you're going out to get takeout fast food, because not everybody likes every fast food franchise.
But maybe if you have it all, then one person will try the other franchise,
Yeah.
and then you'll come to a consensus.
Right.
Then you can teach them about the word consensus.
Yeah. I think that could be a different PSA. Yeah.
And finally, timer says to brush and floss,
Mm-hmm.
and a proper way to brush.
Mhm.
It's fine.
That was good. Can't argue with that.
Yeah. So you brush with cheese,
Yeah.
and then you floss with celery. And this playlist also had a couple other things thrown in that were okay. One was someone called Lewis the lifeguard. He said, "Don't drown your food." Seemed like okay advice,
Yeah.
especially because he was mostly using mayonnaise and ketchup
Yeah.
as the things to not drown.
Yeah.
And then another one, beans and rice, which I really enjoyed. I think it was maybe the I Am a Bill guy singing the song about beans and rice.
Right.
Just how you get a complete protein from the beans and rice.
Yeah, it would be another 20 years until Sir Mix-a-Lot would use beans and rice, and saying beans and rice didn't miss her. But there was a big gap in between those, that public messaging where beans and rice maybe didn't get the publicity it deserved for years.
I don't know if I know that Sir Mix-a-Lot song. Is that
It's
in the Buttermilk Biscuit song, or is it a different one?
I believe it's the Sir Mix-a-Lot song you would think of
Okay.
as a
It's
line
its
about
own.
red beans and rice, I believe.
Okay, all right. So those are the timer ones. I enjoy them.
Timer's an interesting character, and it's funny because I was curious why he was called Timer now, but when they were on, and these are on ABC, right? Yeah, I don't remember ever. I just thinking, oh, who's this weird dude? But I didn't think that why is he called Timer? It didn't bother me at the time.
Yeah, he just says, "Hey, time for timer." And honestly, I didn't even remember that was his name.
Yeah, I didn't know that his name was Timer necessarily. I just think it was like Timer was like the name of the segment or something. Like it was 30 seconds of nutritional info or something. I don't know.
You know what else I think I thought he was? I thought he was whatever the same thing, which turns out to be a fig, is the Fig Newton.
Oh.
Remember the Fig Newton commercials? For a while, there was a guy dressed up as a fig.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And Timer is sort of the same shape as a fig, so I thought there was some connection there. But I didn't realize, I didn't know what a fig was.
Right.
Like a Fig Newton. I just,
You didn't
it
get
was
a
a
fig.
cookie. Yeah. So, yeah, Timer.
Yeah, those were good ones. And I sure remember them as soon as, I saw the playlist. It's like, okay, yeah, I remember these. Hadn't seen them in a long time, but yep, saw them a bunch of times
Yes.
back in the day.
Probably sometimes right after, like, Aquaman told us how to build a tambourine or something.
I think so. Yeah, I think we did. That's right. We did talk about the Super Friends PSAs,
Yeah.
didn't we?
Yeah. Superman chastised us. So, what's your next?
Well, let's see. Perhaps I should start with. I'm trying to think here which one to go with first. Maybe we'll save for the grand finale. We'll save the operatic ones for the finale. That might be appropriate, right? So let me start with an unusual ad that I hadn't really seen before. I didn't remember this at all, but this is the Thomas Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard drug trafficking PSA. I had never seen this until I think it showed up on YouTube, and I was just kind of watching old commercials, as I often do. And to me, this is really bizarre for a variety of reasons. One, I'm assuming based on the timing of it, that this was done they had like a logo for like the war, which is the Hearns-Leonard rematch. Okay, so it's 1989, and it seems like it was part of the promotion for the fight. So while they were promoting this thing where they were about to, go into the ring and knock each other's blocks off, and it was the first fight years before had been a pretty, bitter thing as well. They do this PSA for drug trafficking. I thought this was really weird.
It seems even weirder now. Give me all that context. Like, were they fighting in Miami or something and went out and got on a cigar boat and
Yeah,
did this?
it seemed more like a Miami Vice kind of deal, didn't it?
And are they're wearing like DEA jackets or FBI jackets or
yeah,
something?
I mean, they look like, if they're not official, it looks like you're supposed to think they are. It's very weird. And yeah, like 8 years earlier, they had fought the first time. It was a draw. And then in 1989, they had a rematch, which, by the way, Sugar Ray wound up winning a controversial decision, which it seems like all of his big fights were, anytime Sugar Ray Leonard won, it was a controversial decision. But it's pretty non-controversial to do a PSA about against drug trafficking. And again, let's stress, they were against drug trafficking.
Yes, it was not pro-drug.
Right. When I say a drug trafficking spot, it was against drug trafficking. Doing your part, and I guess what are you supposed to do?
I'm trying to remember. I honestly...
It was kind of like do your part. I almost got the feeling it was like for tipsters, like to snitch on drug criminals.
Yeah, I think so. Like,
I guess was, say something.
Keep an eye out.
Right.
If you see a speedboat or maybe an airplane flying where it shouldn't, maybe say something.
Be alert, yeah.
Yeah. If I don't know, you're visiting someone and they have large quantities of white powder,
Right.
they might be up to something.
And it's not, Pueblo, Colorado, which probably gets a lot of snow, I'm thinking.
I was just saying that I realized Jeff Foxworthy should have done like a PSA about any of these. Like he could have done one like a post 9/11 one, or
Yeah.
like just if you see blah 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 blah, they might be a terrorist.
Yeah, that would have been great. He would have done it. He seemed game for it.
Right. Yeah, this is an odd thing.
Yeah,
and did either of them ever have any issues in those areas?
Is this going to make it onto the final episode? No, they did not have, as far as I think, yes, possibly, but I honestly don't know what's public record and what's just rumored and stuff, but I think at least one of them had a pretty publicized issue or two, but I am not 100% sure of that, so I'm not going to speculate. Let me put it this way. I don't think it was court mandated, this PSA. I think they were doing it it was probably like something like to generate some interest in thing and just do this little thing, and maybe it was part of the local promotion, like I said, like tied in with like the local thing, like do something for the community and, in exchange for support from the local municipalities or something. I don't know. There's probably like there's probably some kind of fascinating story behind that. And they're so like earnest about it, and they're side by side. Not that you expect every boxer to like be at each other's throats, off outside of the ring, but there's just something weird about these guys taking time out of fight promotion to talk about drug trafficking. I don't know.
Yeah, right after they called cut, they got into
Yeah.
argument. Both ended up in the water. I wonder, maybe it's like a shack thing where they were just like into law enforcement.
Could be, yeah. Like wanted to be like deputized and all that. And
Yeah, like they're tough guys, and
I like that.
maybe it looked tough.
Well, you've got a guy nicknamed Sugar Ray, and another guy, Thomas the Hitman Hearns. So, I mean, they weren't nicknamed, Thomas the Do-Gooder Hearns and, Ray, Fraternal Order of Police Leonard. But despite that, they came together to make this anti-drug PSA, and good for them.
I really want a boxer to have that nickname.
With Michael Buffer introducing him, and now Ray, Fraternal Order of Police Leonard.
Boo.
Yeah, or just like in the big build-up, he hails from Pueblo, Colorado. He's a big fan of local law enforcement. He's gone on many ride-alongs with local law enforcement authorities.
Thomas Do-Gooder Hearns.
I tell you, though, if anybody knows the story behind that PSA, if there's I want to see like an oral history of that particular ad. And I want to see that online, and I want to see it tomorrow. So if you know where it is, let us know, because I want to know what went on there.
Bill Simmons, we're talking to you.
Yeah.
This is right up your alley.
Yeah. That's got to go on the Ringer. Yeah.
I'll bet 8,000 word oral history. Or get them, they're both live, right?
Yes.
Yeah, get them together on.
Get together for a special retrospective.
Yeah. 30 for 30.
And the proceeds could go to fight drug trafficking.
Yeah.
Everybody wins.
Do you have anything else about this one?
No, I think that one speaks for itself in a puzzling way. But yeah, check it out, folks. And I'd never seen it before, but I wanted to share it with everybody else. So that's all I got.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to go next with a series of PSAs starring Dick Van Dyke. And I didn't set out to choose these. I was looking for things to choose, and I put in Stop, Drop, and Roll. And that came up, and then as soon as I saw one of these, oh yeah, I remember these, and watched a bunch of them. And now the main place I remember getting the Stop, Drop, and Roll is at school, in like educational films or something,
right?
Firemen visiting and all of that. But I definitely remember these. This might have been the place I saw Dick Van Dyke the most back then.
Is it fair to say that Stop, Drop, and Roll was kind of like our duck and cover? At least from what I understand of growing up in the Cold War. Stop, Drop, and Roll was everywhere. I remember that being a ubiquitous message. I didn't remember these Dick Van Dyke ads as much, but like you said, in school and instructional things, that was huge. Yeah.
I guess we were all terrified.
Yeah.
Catching on fire.
Yeah.
And like the name of this series is Learn Not to Burn, which is really terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good advice, but
not everything has to rhyme.
No.
Kids can remember stuff without there being a catchy rhyme to it.
They just call it fire safety.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know if I learned things from him necessarily from these, but certainly most of these messages you were getting other places too. I believe my dad had a plan to get, I assume he had two plans to get out of the house. And I think, we had like the stickers in the window so the firemen would know there were kids there. And
Good. Oh yeah, the tot finder was it? Was it?
I don't know. Ours had like a fireman on them.
Yes,
but
we
they're
had-
different ones.
We had
Yeah.
one that were all over the place. It was kind of like a metallic sheen to it,
Yes.
and it had tot something, I think, or whatever.
Yeah, and I think we had some rope ladders even.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for you.
I don't think my room had one because my room had a porch roof outside it.
Mm-hmm.
So at least there would have been somewhere to go.
That's cool.
Although then you have to get off there, and I don't know
Ooh, yeah.
what the plan was. Maybe because my parents' room backed up to that too. So maybe we'd meet on the roof.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He'd have the rope ladder. We'd all climb down. I'm not sure. Thankfully, never had to find out.
Good.
So in each of these, Dick Van Dyke's giving advice on some fire safety issue and throwing in a little bit of light comedy, usually to help it along, and just being friendly old Dick Van Dyke,
Yeah.
not murder glove Dick Van
No.
Dyke.
Yes.
So that includes, of course, the stop, drop, and roll, which I'm not sure if I sent you that one. For some reason, that was, even though that's the first one I found.
Yeah, I definitely watched that one, so
Okay.
I think you did.
He's got like, paper flames stuck to him, and he rolls around, and then there's a dog that rolls, and he's like, the dog's name is Dick too. So there's like a Dick and Jane element to it,
All
without
right.
the Jane. But and there's another one where he rolls around. He doesn't say stop, drop, and roll, but it's the same idea.
Okay.
If your clothes catching fire, you roll around on the floor.
Okay, that might have been the one you
Yeah.
sent me. Yeah.
And so I'll send you this other one too. He's having Dick Van Dyke fun rolling around on the floor.
Yeah.
There's one about a hot door, like to check the door
Yeah.
if it's hot, and that's good because he's standing in a door frame, pretending to be the door.
Mm-hmm.
That was one that I remembered for
Yeah.
sure. And then at the end, a little girl, pretends to open him.
Yeah.
And he moves aside and shows off his mime skills. There's one where he's hanging out with the gopher from Caddyshack. I don't know if it really is the gopher from Caddyshack, but I wouldn't be surprised. Like, we need a gopher puppet. Why not? There's one already built.
He was like the Billy Barty of gophers. Like he'd be the go-to, and it'd be very tough to beat him out for roles, I think.
Oh, yeah.
In that era.
Yeah. So that's one where he's saying have two ways out, just like gophers. Gophers have, I guess, two ways out of their hole
Right.
or den. And so he's down on the ground, and the gopher puppet comes out. And there's also the Great Vandini, where he's a magician, and sort of, and saying you don't have to be an escape artist if you have two plans. So one is the front door, but if you can't get down there, maybe you can go out the roof.
That makes sense. Good to have
Yeah.
options.
Yep.
Yet keep it relatively simple. 2 solid plans out, and that's all you need.
Mm-hmm. Know where the exit sign is?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That one had some good physical comedy.
I like that one. But it almost gave me a little sense of anxiety because it's like he's trying and he can't get out at first, right?
Right, yeah.
Because there's obstacles or, they're not true doorways.
Right. He's checking the doors. He opens one, and it's like a classic, closet full of crap, and falls on him. Then the next one, it's a brick wall, which, I don't know what kind of building he's in.
Right.
Door that opens to a brick wall.
Yeah, that's got to be against code.
Yeah. It used to be a room, and now there's something behind that wall.
Oh, that's.
Anyway,
I'm not going to speculate on that.
they're going to find it when that building burns down.
Yeah.
And then he finally finds the one that, of course, has the exit sign, and it's where you want to go.
Yeah, and there's something about like Dick Van Dyke's. I think maybe like the kind of like the grayish hair,
Yeah.
and like just the authority and like maybe his general size. Like he has like kind of an air of authority. Like he does lighten it up a little bit, but at the end of some of those, he'll kind of like change his tone a little bit and tilt his head, and you'll know, okay, that's serious. He gets the seriousness of the message across by the end of the ad for sure.
Yeah. And there's one about staying low, but actually I think there are a couple of those, but, below the smoke.
Now, I believe, was that not criticized, or later they kind of modified the messaging a little bit because they didn't want it to be like necessarily one size fits all in some of these ads, like as far as like to let people know that it wasn't always the best move to get on the ground if there was hot thing. I don't know. I thought I read something like that, but I wasn't familiar with this organization. Do you remember the exact? It was like it's like the Bureau, Fire Safety Prevention Bureau, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think they're still around. I think I looked them up, and I think maybe they're still, another nonprofit that's still around. But it's just funny because like it's something else that I would have assumed was like an ad council thing or like a government thing, but no, it's just one of these like nonprofit organizations doing something.
I looked. I was trying to see if like there was a story behind why he did these, like maybe his house had caught on fire or something, but I didn't find anything. I did see that some organization, like it's like the Fire Safety Engineering Association or something, gave him an award in 1976 or 8
Wow.
for fire prevention. So I guess he did good work.
Yeah. These are really cool, and I don't remember seeing them as much as a kid. But when you sent these, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I kind of remember these now, but I don't think they were on as much when I was growing up. I just don't remember seeing them as much.
I seem to remember seeing them a lot,
Yeah.
but then some of the ones you picked, I don't
Yeah.
remember necessarily seeing at all.
Well, we've talked about like growing up like in different areas and seeing like different things. Like I think like a lot of the ones I saw were on the New York stations that I watched, and maybe you might not have even seen some of those down there, down your way.
A lot of ones about not flushing the wrong things down the toilet.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. I just wanted to say toilet.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Archie Bunker.
Yes.
And of course, in Pueblo, Colorado, they didn't even have television yet.
No.
So they didn't have any of this stuff.
Right.
PSA was like, hammering something into a telephone pole.
The town idiot came out every day and gave fire.
He set himself on fire and then
Yes.
rolled in the dirt road
Right.
to smother himself out.
Yeah. And someone else explained, if your wooden building catches on fire, it's gone. Just forget it, because just attaching the horses to this wagon full of water and running it up here is going to take a while. So.
But enough about Little House on the Prairie. We'll get to that another time.
Right.
I think that show probably taught me more about fire safety than anything else. That and the Gary Coleman movie that I just remember the ads for, where he was an arsonist or something. Did these ads have an impact on you? Like, I think for me it was like the stop, drop, and roll and the things at school. So in these ads, I don't remember seeing them as much. But yeah, fire safety was like real big in my mind. And even the tot stickers, it was kind of like, I think a lot of times you hear the stereotype of like a vague sense of fear being put into you. And I didn't really feel that with most of this stuff. But with fire safety in general, yeah, I was always afraid of fires as a kid.
Yeah.
More than like nuclear catastrophe, it was like, okay, fires, that could actually happen soon.
Yeah, that's less abstract.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if these specific ads had an influence, but the same thing, like you said, just getting inundated with this information had an effect, and having maybe a hypervigilant father.
Okay, yeah.
Worrying about that stuff, didn't help. But then someone on the next street over, their house burned down.
Oh, wow.
So then there was just like a vacant, like a pad.
Ooh.
With a bunch of burnout pipes and things.
Jeez. That must have been like a sobering reminder. You pass by that every day.
Yeah. They weren't kids or anything. I mean, it was an adult. But, do you remember that happening?
Was it an insurance scam, Mike? You can tell me years later. Okay. I was kind of picking up something that maybe you were implying.
No.
Insurance scam.
He was an older guy.
Oh, jeez.
He might have been a cop.
Oh, we might need to get Sugar Ray and Tommy Hearns on this. This might be a cold case.
It was a little surprising that his that a house made completely out of rock burned down. But anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
Fire safety. Stay safe from fire.
Yeah, I'm pro fire safety.
Yeah. Don't spend all your time worrying about it. But that's part of the nice part about it being Dick Van Dyke. He makes it generally seem like a thing to be concerned about, but not. It's not like because he's not intense.
No.
There's a comforting level to it.
Yeah. Now, Gilbert Gottfried was not like that. He was more obnoxious and in your face about it.
Exactly.
He made it kind of like annoying to hear about fire safety.
Right. Boy, like building I live in, has we have smoke detectors that are per the unit, but there's also a building-wide one that comes out of loudspeakers and is just a kind of a generic guy telling you what to do. But now I'm thinking, boy, and it's really loud and annoying, and it pretty much only comes on when there are tests. But boy, they should get Gilbert Gottfried to record those things.
That would have an
There's
effect.
a fire! Yeah. Get out!
It would get people moving.
Yeah.
I think I can guarantee that.
Then he would just, I heard. Yeah, I heard that there's a fire emergency in part of your building.
I think it would work. All right, should we move on to the next one? Let's see. I'm going to go to another musical one here. Okay, I'm going to go to the channeling children's anger spot, which I think was originally from 1988, and this is one I had not seen in years. And I discovered this one. It was produced by the Institute for Mental Health Initiatives, a nonprofit based in Washington, D.C. And I think I looked up them, and I don't think they're still around. It's kind of hard to track some of these down on the internet, more so than you'd think. Actually, you'd think they'd be publicly available and active. So I think they're probably not active, but it just seems like kind of there's a lot of production in this one, and I just remember like being like almost mesmerized by this and having like this one really got to me. I mean, there's a song, so hopefully people will check this out in the playlist. But it looks like a school setting, and there's a young lady that sort of almost looks vaguely like Linda Kelsey from Lou Grant to me, and she's having some kind of issue, but somebody starts singing to her like the message is let's work it out, you've got friends, and so somebody starts singing, and then they start moving through the school, and eventually like a heterogeneous group of youths surround her like in a non-menacing way, but just in a we're here for you way, all sing the song and like kind of got their arms around each other and give each other knowing smiles, and the message is it's okay, let's talk it out, we'll work it out, let's talk it out. It's an incredibly catchy song. I love this song.
It is like, I mean, one, as we'll find out later, you chose quite a number of musical PSAs.
I did, yes.
But this one is it's almost like a "We Are the World" kind of song. I mean, it doesn't have the individual singers, but it does build up to like a choir singing, kind of thing, and just like talk it out, or whatever it is, and
it's got like a sweep
rousing.
to it,
and it's in one of those old high schools that I've certainly never been in, but with the cool staircases and
it looks huge the way they shoot
the windows and lockers, and I don't know what the girl's problem is. Yeah. She's angry about something.
Yeah.
Now, if I were to criticize it, it doesn't really say how they're going to work it out.
No.
Are they going to sing? Is she going to punch something?
Right.
Are they just going to have a chat about it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe those are all options on the table.
It's possible. Now, to be fair, like on Lou Grant when she got into trouble, like Lou would maybe take her aside and they'd work it out by talking, at the budget meeting or something like that, and maybe get Emilio Delgado in there. I don't know why I wanted to name drop him, but friend of the show.
Yeah. He would. He's got plenty of experience helping people work out their anger issues.
Conflict resolution and emotional control. Mm-hmm. He'd be great at that.
Yeah.
But I don't know that did. It's unanswered, and I kind of like that though. You're kind of thrown into the middle of it. You don't really know what's going on, and you don't really know where it's going. But you get this moment in time of people coming together, and it leaves me optimistic that something will get worked out somehow. But I saw it as more of a depression thing. I mean, she wasn't like stomping around, like she was kind of like moping, and like it was weird to see like the title of it be like control or channeling children's anger, because I thought it was like a depression or like, and I still kind of see it that way actually. I'm sorry, Institute for Mental Health Initiatives. Whatever your original message, I'm going to modify it. No, it's about like depression and having a friend when you need it.
Maybe just whoever uploaded it misnamed it.
I think I saw,
or did that organization?
Yeah, no. I've saw it in a couple of places. I think, and each time it was like with other ads. I think there were different copies of it, but I was really excited to see to come across that one, because that one played a lot. I'm sure it was New York television stations like in the late 80s, and I kind of remember having that song and probably singing it with my sisters, and just having that in my head. And if you see it, and it'll probably be in your head for a while, I think. But it's a memorable song, and to me, I hadn't seen that one in years, and it was great to rediscover it. Did it have an effect on me as a kid? I think it kind of did. It was kind of, but just like not change my behavior or motivate me to talk to somebody if I was angry. It was just like, wow, that kind of had an emotional impact on me. Good ad,
Is this the one that has a snippet of a G.I. Joe commercial before it? There was a different one.
That was a different. I think that's one we'll talk about later.
Okay. Yeah.
As non-commercial as these are, I'm a little disappointed to not find better copies of these. And this particular one, it's not great quality. I mean, I think there was probably some artistic lighting in this school, but some of it's just fourth generation dupes that are being uploaded to YouTube with YouTube compression. But I'd really like to see. I would actually pay for a Blu-ray compilation of like cleaned up versions of some of these that were shot on film, you could probably do some good things with them, and just to get nice clean copies, with good soundtrack and everything. Oh, somebody make that happen. And it would have to be on it.
Well, maybe someone should just make an album, a CD of them. I was watching this guitar, like a YouTube guitar thing, and at the end they were talking about this album that this guy had made, which you can get on Bandcamp apparently, but he recorded all of these McGruff songs that were done in schools. Like they would send this McGruff record to schools or tape, and teachers would have a puppet and lip sync along with it or something.
Oh man!
But he said like each one has a breakdown in it in the middle where McGruff kind of talks about whatever the issue is.
Oh,
and they're all like have really really specific titles about whatever crime it is.
Oh.
And for some reason, this reminded him of this is really deep cut, I guess, but the straight edge hardcore punk scenes.
Oh.
Where he said that they always had like a preachy breakdown in the middle of his songs. And so he re-recorded this entire album as hardcore punks.
Whoa. This sounds like an incredible project.
I think it's available in limited quantity on vinyl. But you can download it on Bandcamp, and unfortunately, I don't know the name of it right now.
We'll add it to the show notes.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, that sounds good.
It sounds interesting. Yeah. I don't know enough about hardcore punk to really, I think, appreciate it in its full
Right, I don't think I do either.
Capacity.
But I know enough about McGruff to appreciate him in his full capacity.
Yes.
So there, I'm intrigued.
This guy had a McGruff puppet and was even like holding it, talking, moving the McGruff mouth. That's a side note.
That's a heck of a thing.
So since you did your single one, I'll do this. What was my bonus one before I saved the best for last for me, but which was one segment of another one that aired on ABC, The Donuts.
Yeah, I did not remember this one at all.
All I remembered about The Donuts was the general look of the animation, and for some reason, my brother and I have always remembered just, we're the Donuts, or they're the donut, whatever that. They're all about managing your money, and I can tell you I didn't learn jack from this.
It didn't stick, huh?
No. And this seems like good advice. This one happens to be a little girl who keeps buying stuff that doesn't work and gets upset about it and doesn't realize, or I guess she's a grown woman. She's got to be, right? She doesn't realize that new products are guaranteed up to a certain, you should be able to get it replaced. And having a certain amount of new products that I didn't bother getting replaced, I can identify with that. But I kept going, I should call someone about this. What? Never did, Like I had an air purifier. And it had not touch screen, but like a touch panel,
Okay.
kind of, and something I did shorted it out.
Oh.
And there's nothing you can't do anything with it without this panel.
Man, what a waste.
Yeah. And then I'm like, well, I don't know how to throw this out either.
Yeah.
It's just a hunk of junk. And now it's too late.
Ugh. A cautionary tale, folks.
Yeah.
A little PSA within an episode about PSAs.
Yes. So if you want to learn about money management, you maybe seek out these donuts.
Yeah, is it oversimplifying it maybe to call it's like a Schoolhouse Rock for money kind of?
Yeah,
right?
it's,
it's very
same
reminiscent
idea.
of that.
Yeah, and much shorter.
Yeah,
it's like a minute, I think.
And these were on
ABC.
ABC too. Yeah, I didn't remember this at all.
And it's a good pun on donuts and being a nut and dough and money and preferred spelling of donuts in the pun.
Yeah, it's always good to see.
Yeah. So I just threw that in there.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And no relation to Donut from the Double Deckers.
As far as I know.
Unfortunately, he was not participating in these, but...
No. I imagine he might not have been good at money management either.
No, probably not.
Just with his dietary needs.
On the other hand, maybe he knew enough to seek out bargains, but he still made poor eating choices, but at least he got good deals on them.
Right. Like Dale.
Yeah, shepherd's pie.
Yes. Dale shepherd's pie.
Fish and chips.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Yeah. Wrapped in the newspaper from 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Not just yesterday's newspaper.
Right.
Yeah.
And crisps.
And crisps.
And biscuits.
Yeah.
All right, I'll stop. So there's multiple of these donuts things.
Yeah. And you see at the beginning, like there's a group of characters. I know there's a guy with a mustache, and there's this they're the donuts.
Yeah.
So I think each one is about a different character, and so it's sort of like it's like a rhyming tale. It's not a song. It's like a guy narrating this little Sally, so whatever.
I'm glad you sent me the link to that, because to me it feels very unique. Now I think maybe like in the last, like in this century, maybe there's a little bit more of an effort to educate kids about everything, or just to educate about like consumer behavior, outside Pueblo, Colorado, that is, but just about money matters in the first place. It seemed like in the late '90s or early 2000s, it became a whole thing to like, okay, let's make financial literacy more of a thing.
Right.
But looking at these now, it really feels distinctive, because I just don't remember that being a point of emphasis until like later. Like, I don't think, maybe it would be kind of the thing like, okay, you'd learn math by getting some money examples, but it was more like money examples being used to teach math rather than the other way around for me.
Yes.
If that makes sense. Like, it wasn't like consumer or financial literacy wasn't the objective. The objective was math, and the idea was like, well, if you give a kid a word problem with like a 65-cent candy bar, then it'll be easier to understand the math principles or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Or like when you're like in first grade and your math book's all made out of like newsprint and
Yeah.
I remember I had cardboard, like a page of cardboard cutouts of like coins
Wow.
for some of these math problems.
Yeah.
So you could stack them, I guess, rather than trusting first graders with
Yeah.
actual money.
Yeah. Because, they'd eat it.
They'd eat it, or they'd glue it to their head, or,
Right.
stick it up their nose.
Yeah.
That's the first lesson. Money is not literal food,
No, it's not.
but it can buy you food.
It can't.
Metaphorical food.
And like when kids are younger, they have a hard time understanding the difference there.
Do you think one day they're going to have to teach them Bitcoin or cryptocurrency literacy?
I hope not. I hope there'll be no need for it. I don't want to see cartoon characters singing about crypto anytime soon either.
Unless it's Crypto the Super Dog.
Yeah. And he's denouncing it.
Right.
Okay, yeah, the donuts, that was very cool. Okay, I guess I have two groups left. Why don't we talk about our boy who's shown up a couple times already on the podcast, Ed Asner. Actually, Reading is Fundamental is the group, and I had shared two. Maybe I should mention the earlier one first, the Bookmobile one. Again, this has an emotional impact on me. There's a young African-American child walking through what appears to be a rather desolate urban landscape. And the messaging, as you hear the narration, is how empty a child's life can be without books, without reading. And the kid's kind of like going around sort of like kicking cans, and just with his head down. And clearly, there's no spark there. It's very sad. But then, thanks to Reading is Fundamental, a group that I think this still exists too, a Washington, D.C. based nonprofit, there's Bookmobile that goes around and gives kids books, and they can pick their own book and discover that. He pulls out a book that's, I Am Somebody, and he's reading it, and you see like that spark, within him. And I thought this was a really well-produced ad. And I can remember like seeing this, I think when I was watching TV, it was probably old even then. But I remember this being run and just kind of having an impact. And I was a big reader as a kid, so it didn't need to change my behavior. And it seemed like it's more geared towards adults to support the RIF program anyway. But I love this one.
I do too. I don't remember this one. The other one I do. But one thing you mentioned already, but a number of these, I think, in basically all the ones we're going to talk about, seem going forward from here, partially or totally geared towards adults more than kids, and yet they play it all the time during kids programming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read a lot too, so I never understood quite what the riff thing was about, but it wasn't really targeted at me, so I don't know if the right audience was seeing these. Now, maybe other places they played it in more adult time slots, but
yeah,
if it's playing during He-Man,
right, it might be geared more towards like the mom that's in the room, or the grown-up that's in the room, like,
or maybe the kid getting the kid to, just like a kid would see a commercial for a He-Man toy a bunch of times and say, hey, right, I want a He-Man toy. If you see this enough, you know what, Mom, reading is fundamental.
Yeah,
you should help these kids read.
Yeah,
maybe. Okay.
And I remember it being a thing, like among me and my friends, just kind of joking, like, hey, reading is fundamental, when you're trying to get somebody to read something, or you're mocking reading or something like that. I don't know. But using kids in any kind of thing is one of the most shameless ways to manipulate people. And I think it works here. And the reason people do it is because it's effective. And I think this is a good example of that. So if you can catch that grown up that sees this, then maybe they'll be moved enough to support their organization. This seems like more aimed at furthering the goals of RIF rather than some specific call to action to like give a kid a book. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Let's give them money so they can give a kid a book.
Right.
Am I wrong, or was the narrator John Vernon?
Oh, I don't know. You think it was John Vernon?
I think so, but I could be wrong. The
We'll have to
first time I
investigate
watched
that.
it, I was like, I know this voice, and then
It sounds familiar.
yeah,
I can't confirm or deny it. I don't know.
right.
We'll have to have somebody look into that. Could it be the crack research team?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll send a postcard to Pueblo, Colorado. Somebody should know this. But I'm curious. No, it didn't stand out to me as being John Vernon. I love John Vernon, so
Yeah.
shame on me if it is and I don't know that.
Whoever it is really good
Yeah.
at doing that. The voiceover.
I mean, it's very dramatic. It's kind of reminiscent of like the "Mine is a Terrible Thing to Waste" campaign for the United Negro College Fund,
Yes.
which was something else that I think saw a lot when we were growing up, and especially like the imagery in this and kind of the urban setting and that is a little reminiscent of that, but very effective. And
Yeah, I believe it's New York City.
yeah, and
'Cause even at the end, isn't he? He's sitting on a bench, like kind of under the Brooklyn Bridge, one of the bridges. Anyway, it looks like, but on the water, you know. Very well shot too.
that particular shot inspired Red Hot Chili Peppers to do "Under the Bridge." You know, the part where he goes, "Under the bridge downtown is where I read some books. Under the bridge downtown."
Yeah.
That's a little fun fact.
That's a much happier song than I thought.
Well, yeah, you know, it's all.
Or was he like alternating between reading books and shooting up?
I may not know John Vernon's role in this, but I know made up facts about Red Hot Chili Peppers. Yeah, and you know what? I've never heard anything bad about reading as fundamental.
Nope.
There's some like high-profile nonprofit groups that maybe some of the shine has been taken off them over the years, but I think they did good work. So
Yeah, and doesn't one of these mention the Smithsonian as
Yeah.
somehow part of it?
yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the link is. I think they were operating out of them or in association with them, and then maybe branched off. But I think it was Riff. I think one of the, maybe this very ad has that at the end. And speaking of Riff, yeah, Ed Asner, multiple Battle of the Network shows star.
3-timer now, I think.
Yeah, this will make him. Yeah, Lou Grant, Mary Tyler Moore, and this. I was just making sure because he's been in lots of stuff.
It hasn't been in any cartoons yet that we've
No,
done.
no. But in this one, Ed's sitting with a bunch of kids and talking directly to the camera about again the mission of putting a book in a kid's hands and how it can lead to good things. And they're all holding books. It's very on message, and this is like kind of more grandfatherly Ed Asner mode, not barking at Linda Kelsey mode. And I like this one a lot too. And this one, as you said, this one was on all the time. I think as a kid, right? I mean, I remember this all the time, and
Yeah.
it's very good. And Ed gets a little handsy in this spot, like
He's like elbowing.
he kind of playfully grabs somebody's nose. He whacks one kid with a rolled up magazine or whatever he's got, and kind of gives another one a encouraging kind of like rubbing the head or something. But yeah, he's very active. And at the end, a kid rattles off this information or whatever, and Ed turns to him like, "How did you know all of that? How'd you get to be so smart? By reading."
Yeah.
And Ed Asner does a classic like, "Oh," and just kind of the take he does is it fades out. Classic Ed Asner. He gave his all to this. I mean, he really did a good job, and I commend him.
Some people might disagree with some of his positions on things, but you can't disagree with the fact that he always still gives it all to his beliefs.
He sure does. And, reading is, I'd like to think, a universally approved cause.
Right.
And, yeah, he really did. The whole tone of this is perfect. I mean, it seems like a nice day. They're outside. They're just kind of like having a chat, but informing us like in a cordial way of, the whole mission of Riff. And it works.
He's not like, if you read more, you would understand
Yeah.
that the United States secretly funding the Contras is...
Yeah.
No, it's loose. Like there's like a slight, when he's kind of joshing with the kids, almost seems like it just happened. And it's
Yeah, it seems like there's a genuine affection there. At least
Yeah.
you'd hope there is. And again, an ethnically diverse group of children, deliberately chosen, and I'm fine with that for this mission. It just looks like a totally like universal, like, hey, let's promote reading kind of thing.
But also, if those kind of things are things that you think about now and maybe bother you. It's like, you know what, it's nothing new to put a ethnically
Yeah.
diverse group of kids together for a message.
Right. It seemed a little like more organic back then. Like it never. It's funny. Like it sort of stands out. And I'm the one that commented on it,
Right.
and I noticed it. But I think we're a little bit more hyper aware of it now. But at the time, yeah, there was a big effort to be more inclusive in PSAs like this, and just in television in general, especially like children's programming.
Yeah.
I mean, with like Sesame Street and programming like that, making efforts, and this adds kind of a reflection of that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. But I love this one.
Yeah, it's really good stuff. So bravo on Riff. I think it was 1980 was about the time this came out. So this would be when he was on Lou Grant, I guess. And yeah, and good work. This is a good example of a celebrity involvement in a public service campaign. And I think it's something that a lot of us remembered years later. This one in particular, very prolific.
You know, now I'm thinking, what's his Rinko from Hill Street?
Oh, Charles Hayde?
Yeah, I think he did a riff.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember that one. But I'll bet if I saw it, it would come back. Okay, we'll make a note to look into that. I think that's all I got on Riff.
Okay, so my last two are two Star Wars PSAs. Talk about celebrities. They both have C-3PO and R2-D2.
Yeah, you don't get any bigger than that.
And I definitely remember seeing these a lot as a kid. Mm-hmm. And it was exciting because it was the only Star Wars on the TV.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
You know, I didn't have HBO, or when the movie was on HBO, I didn't have HBO. And maybe it wasn't on at this point anyway. I mean, this is in that between Star Wars and Empire period of the, 78 or 79. And, one taught me that whooping cough or whooping cough existed. I still don't know entirely what it is.
Yeah.
I know I was immunized, and so I didn't get it.
Right.
And I guess from what I read about this one in particular, which was the first one, so there's an immunization one, there's an anti-smoking one, and there were certain immunizations that people didn't think about because they were more rare. So whooping cough was one of the ones and that's the big one they talk about in this, was just one that the general public wasn't too aware of, and but could be disastrous for kids. So
right, it was a good thing that they weren't aware of it.
Yeah,
they weren't aware of it because it had been almost eradicated.
Right, but then people weren't getting immunized because of the lack of awareness.
Yeah.
It wasn't like polio or something where that still seemed
measles. Maybe
measles, yeah,
is one that you still hear of.
Right,
measles was like a thing in popular culture, like on TV shows and stuff. But whooping cough, not so much, right?
Right, yeah. So the first one, C-3PO and R2-D2 are on some sort of Star Wars-y set, and just basically this is one addressing adults, really, saying, parents, are your children immunized? So I guess the idea again is that your little 5-year-old is, am I immunized?
Yeah.
To me, it's just cool because it's C-3PO and R2-D2.
Yeah, I mean
this set. So I did find a brief oral history of this, and really it was they talked to the director and then quoted Anthony Daniels' book. But so the guy who directed it was British and had actually directed the first behind the scenes for the first Star Wars, and had been on the obviously been on the set and been to Tunisia with them, and like he said, even like sort of kind of helped out Anthony Daniels there, which was the beginning of the shoot, and he's in that crazy suit and having to deal with that. I guess when he wasn't filming, he was sort of assisting him a little bit. And then after doing the behind the scenes thing, George Lucas said, well, if you come to LA, call me and, maybe we can do something else. And so he did, and they were getting ready to do this PSA back in London. So he had to go back to London, and they pulled these set pieces out of storage. Now, I don't know why they kept these. They're like Death Star looking pieces. So I don't know why they're keeping them around. Cause as we know, the Death Star did not make it out of that movie.
Right.
But he just grabbed some pieces and put something together. And there's something too. He called George Lucas and asked him if he could clean up C-3PO's suit. And Lucas, no, because they got to have that grime and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And then Anthony Daniels and Kenny Baker came in and they did this. Now, so he has great memories and says great things about Anthony Daniels and everything.
Yeah.
And then Anthony Daniels, in his book, is quoted as saying that the director had no idea what he was doing.
Uh-oh.
There are all sorts of like continuity errors.
Oh, no. Oh.
which kind of like when they cut to close up of R2, it does look like he's in a different position than he was in the wide shots. But I don't know. It's a 30-second piece.
Yeah.
And there was a poster that went along with this. It was in a lot of, I guess, doctors' offices and maybe schools too. The same thing. But the other outcome of it was that Anthony Daniels suggested that they do the anti-smoking one. Anthony Daniels wrote it.
Wow. Ooh, that's very interesting.
That one is definitely not on a Star Wars set. I mean, they look like they're like I don't know, in the basement of like the power company or something.
Yeah.
And R2's like back in some corner and he's got a cigarette, which I guess he was going to smoke.
Yeah, that's a little bizarre.
Yeah. But I love, I mean, this is not the message of the thing, but he's holding it in his little claw thing. And it just, because it's like the two pinchers, the way he's holding it, it's like almost like a European kind of thing, or like
he's like Marlene
40s
Dietrich
movie.
or
Yes,
something.
yeah, exactly. I do wish he had a cigarette holder. Would really push it. But,
No, you're spot on with that. That's a good call.
and then C-3PO also explained that it's bad for the lungs and the heart.
Yeah.
As they point out, they don't have lungs and a heart.
Yeah.
But that is not cool. And then he tells people not to smoke. But then he's like, "Do you really think I don't have a heart?"
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you're a robot.
That was a strong emotional note for me at the end there. I really felt bad. It's like,
It
geez.
is, yeah.
Like, I wasn't expecting that. It kind of like hits you. And I think that's the very end of the ad, right?
It is,
I mean, there's not like a...
There's
not
like some
lightened-
text or something.
It's not lightened with like a beeping whirring
Right,
from R2D2, which would sort of like add a comic note to it. It's almost like I got the impression like that C-3PO is genuinely hurt.
Yeah. And, I feel bad for him sometimes when I watch those movies.
Yeah.
He gets kind of the raw end of things. On the other hand, I laugh a lot when the various ways Han Solo tells him to shut up. So,
Right. Yeah.
But I feel a little bad for him.
I do too. I really felt bad for him in this one. But
And R2 had beeped before that, so R2 said something.
yeah.
And we know it's always rude when
Yeah.
there's usually context that at least implies that, and does in this case.
I think that's...
But R2 got the message. He dropped the cigarette.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
In that room full of electrical equipment.
I don't know if an ad like this, how much effect it has, but it doesn't matter to me because, like you said, it was Star Wars and it was cool.
Yeah.
And the whole anti-smoking has been a staple of very special episodes for years, so it seems entirely appropriate in a strange way to have R2D2 involved in this because he's more like the rebellious kid.
Mm-hmm.
Still, there's something about that image of R2D2 with a cigarette that it's kind of hard to shake, but
Yeah.
I really love these, yeah, and like I think you really hit on it. It was such a treat just to see Star Wars, on The Muppet Show or Star Wars even on a commercial, whatever kind of commercial, that, yeah, you'd really look forward to seeing something like this.
Yeah, and at that age, I was like totally about the droids anyway.
Yeah.
And I was like a big C-3PO fan at age 4 or 5, so it was great to see him.
Yeah.
I don't know if this one in particular gave the anti-smoking message, but I certainly got it.
Yeah.
Over the years, I never had a desire to do that.
All right, so this one worked on you.
I think so. It was the beginning of it, maybe.
Yeah.
But again, you're inundated with that, so
Right.
I'm honestly surprised that anybody at this point does.
Yeah.
And yet they do. So
Yeah, I love these, both of these. They're cool. I had no idea that Anthony Daniels was that involved with the creative on the smoking PSA. So that's interesting to find that out. But yeah, I wish there were more of these. I could have seen. I would have watched whatever they did on any topic. I would have eaten it up.
right. I would like to see one of some of the other characters,
Yeah.
like Han and Luke, and
Chewbacca.
like Luke doing something stupid. And,
Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you smoking for, kid?
Yeah.
That won't make you a Jedi.
Now that's interesting. That would be almost a little too realistic
Yeah.
to see Luke smoking. Although it's not hard to imagine Han Solo smoking.
It's not really.
And to our 2 to 11-year-old demographic, he didn't.
No.
And you shouldn't either. It's wrong.
Correct.
But we're just saying it's not out of the realm of possibility that
Right.
a guy of his lifestyle and demeanor might have.
On the other hand, I don't think a PSA would work as well if it were Luke. Like, you shouldn't be smoking, Han.
Yeah.
Like, you would just...
Right.
No, because he's the cool guy, because
Right.
you want to do what he's doing.
Yeah, I think they went the right way with R2 and C-3PO. They were the kid characters, kind of.
Yeah. Or, maybe have Chewbacca involved somehow.
Right. Chewbacca could, rip somebody's arm off if
Yeah.
holding a cigarette.
Right.
He'd rip it out of their socket.
Ghost of Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good stuff. All right, well, if we're ready to move on to my last category, I think as ubiquitous as anything else on TV, for me at least, in this era, the Battle of the Network shows era, was a series of public service announcements run on different stations and produced by, I guess, and sponsored by the Church of the Latter-day Saints. Now,
The Mormons.
yes. Thank you. Now, when we talk about these, let me just say, because, things are what they are today, we're not talking about the Mormons as a religion or the church or as Jesus is a thing, to quote John Lennon or whatever. I'm just talking about the ads, and I'm not endorsing any religion or unendorsing any religious viewpoint. And actually, other than that mention at the end, these ads, I had no idea what... I knew it. It's funny, I knew what Mormons were because I had Mormon classmates, but the Church of the Latter-day Saints just seemed like a really wordy way of saying Mormons. I always wondered, why don't you just say the Mormons, Is it what's going on there? But they did these spectacularly cool public service announcements about a variety of, I would say, pretty universal moralist causes, right? Would you say? I mean, there's really nothing controversial in any of these.
No, like the only thing it struck me today rewatching them that just by sticking their name on it, it makes it look like there's an element of evangelizing going on,
Right.
like underneath it. And because Mormons are known for being pretty aggressive with their evangelizing, you can think that. But on the other hand, the message isn't bad. So, and I doubt many kids were suddenly like, can we be Mormons?
Yeah.
Because they sing all that
Yeah.
or whatever, by the time I was seeing them, because one of these goes back to like 1973 or something.
Yeah.
I don't remember them until later, but and I don't honestly remember any of the particular ones you chose. Like I don't remember them being quite this elaborate, but by the time I was seeing them, I was old enough to A, know what Mormons were, and B, know that we didn't go to that church, and I wasn't going to choose it or anything.
Yeah.
So
I think it still seemed a little bit abstract to me. Like, okay, there's the Mormons that go to school, and that's a religious thing, but this other Mormon thing is like TV. It's something different. I don't know. To me, it was just like, I think these ads, well, some of them were fixtures of weekday after school cartoons. These would be on during the commercial break. So my friends and I, we could sing the songs, we'd know them by heart because they'd be on all the time. And eventually, I don't know how much the message resonated. It was just like an entertaining thing that we enjoyed the scenarios and the songs and didn't really think about where they were coming from. But I think this is a good example of something where it's very easy to separate the message from the messenger, and many, if not most people, probably did.
yeah,
And I don't know if there's anything wrong, or I'm not saying there's anything good or bad about that, and maybe that they were fine with that. These were very commonplace ads.
well, and I think a fair number of people like take their kids to church more just to give them an extra grounding in some of this kind of basic stuff.
Right.
Like not even the religious part too much, or even the the more extreme versions of it, just basic be nice to people
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And it is an extra way to do that. I guess if the threat of eternal damnation helps out, then
Yeah. Well,
or just even that, oh, God's watching you,
yeah.
But none of that's here again. It's not like one of these kids who lies tells the truth because he might get punished when he dies.
Yeah. It's
because it's the right thing to do.
right. To me, it's almost like a virtue is its own reward kind of thing, and more like morals as you would read like in a elementary school reader or something like that. Like, and people could argue that there's a certain Judeo-Christian ethic behind all that kind of thing, but just kind of like a generic reader with like Dick and Jane or something like that, to name drop that pair again, that it would be sort of just like themes considered universal, and that's kind of, to me, that's really all there is to it. But I'm thinking, why don't we start? Why don't I go kind of chronologically on these the handful of ads? Let me go with the more emotional ones. The first one, well, actually, okay, we'll start with the 1973 one. I think this one became famous because of the line of dialogue that the young girl says to her mom. But it's like a very peppy early 70s kind of like, almost like, again, kind of going to that. How would you describe it? Like a rock band.
Like almost like a singer-songwriter kind of thing.
Yeah, like a singer-songwriter, but with like an electric
Like a band, yeah. I mean,
band,
like Carole King or something.
I was just like America or something, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
Or Well, we talked about the Youngbloods in our
Yeah, the hot
recent
dog. Yeah.
1971 bonus episode
Yes.
of doing some of the music for that, and kind of maybe a little bit of that,
Yeah.
But it's very peppy.
Right.
And to me, there's a little dissonance in the ad because it's like take time to listen and talk to each other and all this, and you're seeing all these little scenes, and then it kind of comes to the fun kind of comes to a halt when you see this young girl like looking out the window and teary eyed, and she kind of turns to her mom and says, "Mom, why am I so dumb?" And there's no context for this or anything.
No. And you don't even get to hear the mom's answer.
No, she just kind of like sits down and presumably is going to talk. I guess she does say something. You see her lips move.
Yes.
But I'm kind of curious how she answered that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's
Well,
almost
you're
like a
not
trick
dumb.
question.
You just made a mistake or something. But I know when I watched this one, I just happened to like the very top YouTube comment was like, I'm not going to repeat it because it was really, really mean spirited. But I think that was before I watched it. I'm like, what is that? And then I watched. I'm like, oh, okay, I see. But you feel that way when you're a kid sometimes.
Yeah.
But there's something comically pitiful about the way the girl
Yeah.
says it.
Especially, I mean,
It's dumb. Like the word dumb for some reason makes me,
yeah,
like not why do I do stupid things?
right.
So why am I a moron?
It's just really blunt the way she just blurts it out.
Yeah.
We were probably better off when we were growing up not to be able to watch these on YouTube and see people chiming in with their sarcastic comments about it. A lot of the times we'd just be watching it by ourselves and we would just process it by ourselves and at least maybe on some level have a fighting chance of being able to take the message in the way it's intended instead of like mocking it, But and then it picks up again. The music then kicks back in, and the idea of it though is we're not necessarily supposed to explore why she is or is not dumb. But that's the mom's job. But the idea is that you talk to your child. You listen.
You listen. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, you listen to what they're saying and hear them out. I mean, now in this particular case, there's a lot more. The mom's got a lot more work to do than listening. She's gonna have to do show some empathy, some active listening, not just let her ask again and again, "Why am I so dumb?" That would be an interesting commercial if she just sits there blankly and lets her keep asking. No, seriously, why? Why am I so dumb, Mom? Mom?
That's the sequel.
Yeah.
Like there was a trilogy. Listen,
Yeah.
answer,
Right.
and then we'll listen
Yeah.
again.
Change the subject.
Just get offer them cake.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a good one, and I think this was probably shown a lot and more memorable to maybe people just a little bit older than us. This is not one that I remember seeing as a kid.
And this one just has a graphic. It doesn't even have a voiceover saying that.
Yeah, the Church of the Latter-day Saints, but
Right.
it does have the Mormons
Yes.
in quotation marks, right?
Right. Yeah.
Which I don't understand that the use of
Well,
quotation marks is.
because for a long time that was a way other people talked about them.
I see.
It was a disparaging comment,
okay,
and I think they reclaimed it at some point.
Okay.
So for you dummies out there who aren't in the Church of Latter-day Saints,
Mhm.
it's the quote-unquote Mormons.
Okay. It looks a little bit odd in the graphic.
It does, yeah.
But okay, so I like this one.
It's
But
good advice.
to me, it's the juxtaposition of that really sad and weird moment with the peppy music really
Yeah.
stood out to me. Now the next one, this to me is just a total heartbreaker. And again, I'm a parent. It's got a kid involved. There's a little girl. She's coming home from a party, and she's really excited to share, the story about the party. And it's kind of weird. You get the impression, I guess things were different back then, but she walked home from this party by herself. She's pretty young. Nobody was really there to greet her or anything. But she walks home by herself. Hopefully it was just across the street or something. Hopefully she didn't have to take the subway or something to get there or take a taxi. But she comes home and she wants to tell, she's excited, and like kids do. When the kids are excited about something, they're yakking, but she's not even obnoxious about it. She's just genuinely excited, and she's got a little, I think she's carrying a doll or something like that. And the mom is watching her stories. She doesn't want to hear about it. She goes to the dad.
That was my favorite.
You like the dad,
Because
his total
he's
negligence?
sitting in another room soldering something.
Yeah.
What? He's not even. He's just in the living room soldering. And
Right.
Yeah. When I was rewatching it today, it just she said whatever her line was, and then I was just I'm soldering.
Yeah.
Get out of here! I'm soldering.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's it's a broken radio or something. I
Yeah.
mean, if it's his job, okay, but
He's
just seemed
tinkering.
yeah, I like to solder.
But he's not even in his an outdoor workspace or the garage. He's
No,
just in
I
in a
know.
room.
You shouldn't be soldering in a house like
Yeah.
that. I mean, unless it's attached to part of the house.
Yeah.
I feel like you should be somewhere with good ventilation.
I agree. And if I had a day of soldering ahead of me, I'd be thankful for a break, to hear about it. But
You might say, wait just a second, because it's a delicate thing, and you
Yeah.
don't want to
Oh,
just
yeah.
drop molten hot metal on
Yeah.
your radio or whatever.
there's a way to do that. Yeah, you can say like, "Oh, great, I can't wait to hear all about it." But it's dismissive, and she just is he the one where she just kind of like, "Oh, we had ice cream," and
I think
she
so.
just kind of like mutters that and goes
Yeah.
off. And it's like, well, geez, she had ice cream, and that's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
But he just clearly doesn't care. I mean, and that's one thing, with kids, not giving them your focus, they pick up on that. That's very, dangerous as a parent not to do that, to not give attention or to be totally dismissive of the child. So then she goes to see her sister, her older sister, I guess. And, this one's not so surprising, right?
Yeah. She's a teenager.
Yeah. She totally blows her off, too.
She's brushing her hair or something.
Yeah. Coming after the parents, it is kind of sad. I mean, maybe the sister could have been first or something like that, actually. But this one isn't surprising, but it's still sad. And that's 3 strikes. And then she kind of goes outside, and at least there's the family dog.
Yeah. But then the voiceover is like really dire. It's like, if you don't listen to your kids, they could go to the dogs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which one is insulting to that dog? That is the only thing listening to her.
Yeah, we should point out that the dog is receptive to what she's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dog is the only good
He's
one in
happy.
the bunch. And, she has, like, temporary happiness, and she hugs the dog. But, why should she have to get that from the dog?
Yeah.
Again, though, nothing wrong with the dog.
But it
no offense.
suggested that really cute little girl is going to end up being a
Yeah.
criminal or something.
Yeah. Well, it could go that direction. I wouldn't rule it out.
Or maybe she's going to be angry and, when she's in high school and somebody's going to help her out with that
Yeah.
by singing to her.
It could be. Let's hope.
Yeah. And somewhere in between, she's going to ask somebody why she's so dumb.
I think so. She's got her whole life ahead of
Now,
her planned.
as far as we know, that's not some actress who went on to something or anything.
I don't know. Did you think it was?
No, I had a brief, maybe because of one of the other ones. I thought maybe it was Soleil Moon Frye,
Oh, interesting.
but it's probably too early.
I think the time frame doesn't match up, but I will say that whoever she is, she's very natural and she's perfect in it.
Yeah.
So good job with that. Yeah. So to me, that was very emotional. Now, so those are the listening ones, but now let's move on to ones we want to listen to. The musical ones. These were like, oh man, so many times I watched these. So there's the Who Broke My Window
Yes.
with a young Alfonso Ribeiro, multimedia star, stage and screen.
Yeah.
Breaks an old guy's window. Again, kind of one of these urban street settings, which did they even exist anymore in the 1980s? These neighborhoods where everybody's in each other's business and come out on the street.
I
Comes out
mean,
on the
Sesame Street did. But
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think, when you're in a city, probably your little block is your neighborhood. And maybe
Yeah.
stuff like that happens.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, it seems very kind of New York
Yeah.
setting.
The idea is definitely that it's a community here, and I think that's part of it, like that they know each other, and everything. But instead of just going out and yelling, he starts singing like, "Who broke my window?"
I think that really surprised me.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't start out just, somebody broke a window, and then all of a sudden it went into this
And then there's the what do you call
an
it?
opera.
Yeah, the counter singing of telling the truth isn't going to be easy.
Yeah.
Why is my stomach so nervous and queasy? And then it builds up to like this crescendo, like Mr. Robinson, Mr. Robinson. Oh, it's great. And there's the editing back and forth between Mr. Robinson and Alfonso Ribeiro, who's got his kids, kind of nervously behind him and everything. But ultimately he says, I broke your window, and this is all in song, of course. But Mr. Robinson says, "You shall pay for this." I like that. He gets that in there. "But I'm proud of you, son, for you have displayed honor, the stuff from which heroes are made." And then he does this triumphant thing, and they kind of shake hands. And
I told the truth.
he told the truth. And I noticed also Mr. Robinson, he kind of grabs him in a way that in today's age would seem a little aggressive
Yes.
for a kid that's not yours. But it's kind of more a little bit of an embrace, and they shake hands. So it's okay. But for a minute there, you're like, ooh, he's kind of grabbing him.
Am I misremembering, or is Alfonso dressed a little bit like a 1950s troublemaker? Backwards hat, but like in an 80s, maybe a mix of 80s
Yeah, okay.
and 50. I just feel like he's like Dennis the Menace, but like overalls, but they're kind of rolled up.
You know, I hadn't seen it like that, but
maybe not.
That's a fair description. Kind of like a scamp,
Yeah.
but not necessarily a delinquent, as how I would say.
Right. And they were just playing ball, right? He didn't intentionally.
No, it was inadvertent. I mean, who hasn't broken a window as kids? You know, playing stickball or whatever out in there.
Kick the can.
Yeah, kick the can. I broke many a window playing with a spirited game of kick the can.
And then he just ran off and got an egg cream.
Yeah. Those forgotten days of yesterday. Yeah, I love this one, and this was maybe one of the most popular commercials, I think, of its time, at least as far as I was concerned, and it was on all the time.
Like I said, I don't remember it, but I'm sure I saw it. But it definitely has the the way the logo or the slogan looks at the end is what I remember, and the Mormons.
Yeah, this and the goofy font.
Yes.
You know, which kind of makes it look condescending, like you're gearing towards like really little kids with like that can't write.
Yes.
That have terrible penmanship. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one, and hey, tell the truth. That's a simple message, and I'm not going to say that this is what instilled that value in me. I think I already had that value. For me, as a kid, like I was raised and just always kind of thought that was like a big part of integrity and character was being honest and telling the truth. And it wasn't necessarily this ad, but pretty much everything we watched. I mean, the TV we watched. That was a pretty common thing. A lot of it came together, PSAs, but just fictional TV, sitcoms, cartoons, you name it. Telling the truth, the primary goal for all of us. And it was also seen in this next ad, which takes place in a classroom with a very enthusiastic teacher leading kids like in this little like Broadway theatrical number about never telling a lie. And I was fascinated by this one. It starts out like asking what the moral is, and then, one kid says something, and then they do kind of almost the Dr. Dolittle speak singing thing a little bit until they launch into a full-blown musical number with dancing and choreography. So, and one of the distinctive things in this ads for me is like the teacher a couple times, she gives cues, like she points out, like, like an affirmation of the kid for like their specific lines, like never tell a lie. And it's the consequences of telling a lie. Your heart will start to thump and your throat will get a lump and you'll wish that you could lie right down and die. So remember to not ever tell a lie, not even small ones. That's my favorite. The kid with the top hat, doing a number. Yeah, what'd you think about this one?
I thought it was terrible.
What?
No, I'm sorry. I told a lie. I cannot tell a lie. Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, and a good message again. And yeah, I like the kid in the top hat. Again, he looked vaguely familiar, like someone who maybe was in other stuff. But
now that you mention it, we didn't mention that. According to, I think, a couple places on the internet, the kid who was in the Bookmobile ad did have a motion picture career, and he was in Claudine, I think. Wasn't able to confirm this with James Earl Jones, and then I think he was in like Up the Academy later in the early 80s, so he went on to like an acting career after that. So just thought I'd mention that. But I don't know of anybody in this except for Alfonso Ribeiro that went on to other things. But they seem like precocious kids with musical talent. Good for them. It was a real showstopper of a number, and it's very non-obnoxious. It's cute.
Yeah,
but and nothing wrong with it. And the classroom setting, Mike, did your school ever do this? Did you ever break into song in the middle of a lesson?
No. Did you?
No, we didn't. But we would have like units where. Did you do the thing where you'd have like a musical concert you'd lead up to, and like your whole school day was consumed with like rehearsing for that for a while? Like we did a Westward unit where you'd like take chunks of your day like outside of music class to actually prepare for it?
No, there was like one, maybe first grade. It was some sort of Christmas
okay
patch. It was I know as a mouse.
And did you see? I'm pretty sure that like in elementary school, a couple times we would actually take like regular class time and devote it to that sort of thing. Like we'd go into
a little bit,
as opposed to just
But
this
that
is
was
part
with
of
the
music class.
teacher too.
Okay, yeah. It was a big deal, I guess, is what I'm saying. Those concerts.
No, I think just you had to be like in the chorus, be involved in most of that stuff.
But as far as an impromptu concert in the classroom, no. I mean, maybe if one of us got like excited and started singing Billie Jean or something like that.
Yeah.
But certainly it would be snuffed out. You wouldn't all join in.
I had my teacher bring in her 45 of the she needs in song, the morning train.
Morning
song.
train?
Yeah, yeah. Remember that?
Wow, that's kind of cool.
Right, yeah. So she, she's a teacher, so I don't know how she was an adult, but so that she probably was pretty young. She was my second grade teacher.
Huh.
You know, and me, of course, not being familiar with it, wasn't familiar with it, but I think some of the other kids were. Other than music class and that's about as close as we got.
Yeah, and to me, I think these ads were the closest I got to musical theater and opera for a while, probably. Certainly opera.
I'm curious.
Or Looney Tunes, maybe.
I wonder if who they got Mr. Robinson is. Like, he might be somebody of note.
Yeah, like a seasoned, at least like a stage performer, I'll bet, or something. Yeah, and to me, it's difficult to get information about a lot of these. We've shared, what we learned, and by we, I mean you, because you're the one that has the backstories on some of these.
Mm-hmm.
Like these, I'm just asking for the backstories, but
Yeah.
there's not a whole lot of information about some of these, which is a shame considering they resonate with me, and I bet a lot of people listening, just because we saw them so often, they were a big part of our TV watching growing up.
I wouldn't be surprised if there is a lot of information about the LDS ones, just because they're known for being into archiving so much.
Right.
So, there could be like substantial records of that, like scripts and things, maybe in one of their libraries or something.
It seems like that could be a documentary too.
Yeah.
Just on those Church of Latter-day Saints, because what we've talked about here spans at least like 15 years, and I'm sure that it went on beyond that. There's a lot more that we could have included that I could have suggested we watch, but there's tons of LDS PSAs out there. And I think that's all I got on the Church of Latter-day Saints PSAs. But some of these I just discovered for the first time now. Some of these I've rediscovered, and some of these I've never really forgotten. I think the last couple ones that I mentioned were ones that it wouldn't take much to bring them back in my mind. But the important thing is that I learned something from them.
Yes, I think that's important to all of us. We learned something. And do you know where else you could learn something?
Where's that?
Our Facebook group.
Yes, that's a very good place to learn things.
Important things. Like your continuing list of rules of 70s and 80s sitcoms.
Yes. It's a good place to come together and just talk about stuff like we're talking about now, and get some other views, and love to get some views on this, hopefully on the Facebook group, but it's very easy to join. Anybody can join.
I mean, you have to be on Facebook.
Yeah, well, there's that. Go to Facebook, answer a few questions, and then come join the conversation there. And that's probably the best place to communicate with us directly, but you can also email us at mailbag@battleofthenetworkshows.com with questions or show ideas.
Yes, and if you feel like supporting the show, we now have a TeePublic store. Go to TeePublic and search for Battle of the Network Shows, and you can find T-shirts and mugs and pillows and all sorts of junk.
That's right.
All sorts of high-quality merchandise.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But, that's just if you want to, or if you just want a cool shirt, and we'll get a few bucks from that, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to be crass and commercial on this episode about
about public service.
Public service, yes.
Well, I think that's quite all right. And yeah, the main thing is if you do want to support the show, another thing, tell somebody else. If you think you know somebody that loves 1970s and 1980s television, spread the word. And we really hope to grow the podcast this season. We got a lot more coming, but I'm just thankful to have the opportunity to do an episode about public service announcements. It's been a dream of mine.
Yes, I know. I feel like you thought I was resistant to it, and I'm not sure why that was, but
there's been very few things that we've been resistant to. We
yes.
As you can see if you go back and look at the past episodes that we've done and some of the topics, if it is in this era, I think we've thought about it, or we'll get to it eventually, or it might even be on the docket already. But our Facebook group or email, like we said, those are places where you can suggest show ideas and talk about what we have done already.
Yes, and hopefully today we told the truth.
We told the truth.
I'm sorry.
Sponsors. Battle of the Network Shows reminds you to get immunized, not smoke, always tell the truth, practice fire safety, read books, practice anger management, eat lots of cheese, and, of course, never ever use cocaine. Join us next time for another exciting episode of Battle of the Network Shows. Learn more, leave feedback, and suggest future episodes at battleofthenetworkshows.com. Follow us on Twitter at BatNetShows, and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Battle of the Network Shows.